Welcome back to the Ball and Breakfast podcast. I'm Patrick alongside Wayne. We've been putting together a lot of content around the NFL draft. We've done a couple rounds of mock draft based on what the Bears have been up to. Even last time we kind of played GM for, the first round and went back and forth and, went through a complete mock draft of the first round. So if you haven't checked out those videos, go to YouTube, check them out on our page, Ball and Breakfast podcast. In general, you can find all of our, library of videos and other things. So leave us a like, a subscribe, comments. We always enjoy those. But for the focus of tonight's show, we're going to stay on the NFL draft theme. And what we're essentially going to do, and it was an idea that Mel Kiper and Todd McShay came up with on ESPN, but essentially they did somewhat of a fantasy draft based on the NFL draft prospects for this year. For our version, we're going to do 10 players overall for each team. We're going to cover a quarterback, a running back, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, and then 5 defensive players, which will include an edge, a tackle, a linebacker, a cornerback, and a safety. So in no order as far as position goes, we're just going to see who gets the first pick and then kind of bounce back and forth amongst each other. And at the end of it all, we're going to kind of look at our rosters and talk about regrets, things we liked, and nitpick each other on our teams, in general. So with that, I'll turn it over to Wayne to kick off the coin toss, and then we'll see who gets the first pick.
Yeah, so I got this little button over here. I'm just gonna flip it. Pat, I'll leave it up to you. I think this will be heads, and then this will be tails. What do you call it?
Tails never fails. Let's go there.
Okay. I got heads. I swear. So I'll go ahead and pick first.
Go for it.
Yeah, sounds good. All right. This is definitely a fun thing because it's like I feel like, all right, maybe there's not too much of a drop off in certain positions. So you got to kind of gamify here in a way. So I'll go with the first pick. The player that I think kind of stands out the most between him and the second person. A little bit, at least in my opinion. And for me, I'm gonna go with Bijan Robinson actually here. So in terms of positional value, with respect to the other running back, I think the second running back on here, which I'm looking at, you probably will be taking sooner. I think Bijan stands out a little bit more in terms of his production. I'm anticipating a lot more carries. He presented a pretty decent pass catching game. I think he could be better in the pros. Maybe that's not his forte. I think the second running back on the board, but I still think he can be a great player over there. And whichever team picks him, I think they're going to want to give him the ball a bunch and let him kind of carry everything moving forth. So, yeah, Pat, what is your pick?
I think for starting off a franchise, based on our thing here, I'm going to go with the best quarterback on my board, the guy that I'd want to start my franchise with in this draft. I'm going to go with CJ Stroud. I just think, based on what he did last year, throughout the season, last couple seasons actually being Heisman, finalist overall, offensive player of the year in the Big Ten, having, big college playoff, like his size. He's had an incredible camp combine. I think he's the right guy for the job. I feel like, the Bryce Young intangibles are nice. I worry about his size in the NFL. So overall, I think Stroud would be just a great foundational piece to get my roster going and to, lead my franchise to the promised land. So give me CJ Stroud to start it off.
Thank you. I wanted Bryce Young anyways, but I'm not going to take him now. So with all that, my next pick, a player that I've been kind of eyeing, and part of me is kind of wanting the Bears to take him just to make a little bit of a noise out there. I'm going to pick Jackson Smith-Njigba. I know that there's 2 wideouts out there and everything, but to me, he stands out from the rest of them. Whichever team picks him, I think they're going to get a stud, going to get a bunch of receptions, catches, yards, et cetera, and some TDs. So I think he's better positioned than maybe some of the other players, except maybe one other wide receiver out there to make some immediate contributions. Again, depending on probably what team that they join. But I think Jackson Smith, the Jigba for me, I think he's going to have a hell of a season and is going to stand out from the rest of the wide receivers in this class. So, yeah, he's my pick.
That sounds good. I guess for my next pick, if I just try and take the top talent, continue to take the top talent off the board, in my opinion, I'm going to have to go with Jalen Carter. I feel like, he's been getting dogged. Obviously, he had that rough offseason. I still think he's the best defender in this draft, possibly the best overall pick in this draft, just based on talent alone. I feel like he'd just be a complete anchor for my defense for so many years. I think he'll get all this, all these problems that he's had off the field, like behind him at this point. And, I trust in our, franchise in terms of our executives, our coaching, our development to right the ship for young Jalen to be the guy that everybody truly wants him to be. So, yeah, my squad's going to take Jalen Carter there.
Sounds good, man. And with that, I'm going to take Will Anderson Jr., defensive end here. So this guy's going to get a bunch of sacks, has a high motor, has no character issues unlike Jalen Carter. So I'm going to go ahead, take this guy, and feel good about it in my sleep. So
no, it's fair. It's the top edge, off the board. I think everybody's been talking about how basically, his ceiling in general is one of the best as far as edges go. I think he also is like the highest floor too. Like I think that of everybody available, he's probably the safest player you can pick at that position. Obviously, like people are just trying to find flaws in him at this point, but that's good. It's getting a little tough there at the top, but let me see real quick. What do I want to go with next here? See, I would just go ahead and just start sniping some quarterbacks if I had some bench spots here, but I don't. So I'm going to think through this one for a sec. I would take either or of those guys. So I guess with my next pick, could find. No, you know what? I'm gonna take the highest next edge off the board. I think Tyree Wilson out of Texas Tech, just talent alone. I feel like that would kind of jump off the page to have him and Carter on the same side. Depending on what else is filling out the defensive line, I feel like you wouldn't need much more after that in general. But yeah, give me Tyree Wilson and put the line to bed here.
Sounds good. No, I think Tyree Wilson's an excellent player, so I think that's a nice front you got there. But I'm gonna, I'd rather have my choice of whatever position that I can get, the player that I can get in each position. So I'm gonna go ahead and pick, safeties. I think there's only one safety that's projected to go in the first round, so I'm gonna go ahead and take that one. Brian Branch out of Alabama. Is a stud. I think he's a little bit farther than some of the other safeties in this draft class. So for me, I feel like that's a good pick in terms of value and what he brings to the table. So Brian Branch for my safety there.
That was a really good pick. I was looking at him. I didn't know if it was too early. I didn't know if I would get any sort of boos from the crowd or anything like that. So I got a little tight thinking about it, but I probably screwed up a little bit again. Not considering positional scarcity in that frame, but in general, yeah, I mean, I think he's going to be a perennial Pro Bowler, especially from what all the analysts have been saying. So that's a really good pick. I think for my next, I want to take who I consider to be the top corner off the board, and I'll take Christian Gonzalez. I've actually been hearing some rumors that he could be in play for the Bears at number 9 if it happened to turn in any sort of way with like too many quarterbacks or too many linemen kind of going in those first 8 picks or so. And I wouldn't hate that. Is that our top need at this point? Maybe not, but in the same sense, like to have a complete shutdown corner, somebody you could really build with as a lockdown outside corner, like that'd be awesome. So give me Christian Gonzalez.
Yeah. No, that's that was definitely one of my top cornerbacks. So that was a good pick there. I just feel like there's a bigger drop off between Brian Branch and the next safety over there. So But nay, good on nabbing that. And yeah, I'm gonna go positional scarcity for sure here. I don't think I think there's a little bit more parity in the tight end position. I know that, and so I'm gonna look into. I already drafted a wideout, so I'm gonna focus on a linebacker here. I like in terms of a player that I think is going to drive the most impact for their team at the linebacker position. And to be honest, I think this is kind of a weaker draft for linebacker. I don't think there's too many projected in the first round, and I think any linebacker that's going to go in the first round might be considered a reach. But I think again, the player that I think is going to get a bunch of sacks, pressures, tackles, etc. Drew Sanders. This guy, he has all the physical tools. I think he had like 11 sacks his previous season, so is going to get a bunch of tackles as well. Complete athlete, and he's like, I think he's like 6'5", 240 or something like that, so pretty large. So I think I'm going to go with Drew Sanders here, going to make a big impact.
Boo! Kansas City is giving you hell right now. No, that's a good pick. I'm glad you win linebacker there because now it allows me to take at least one wide receiver off the board before you go ahead and take the other, to fill out your slots. I'll go ahead and take the big body Quentin Johnston. Put him on the outside. He'll be a target, for those deep balls from CJ Stroud, those jump balls. Like I can't wait to see these two match up. I feel like this is decent value for where we're picking right now. So give me Quentin Johnston as my wide receiver 1.
That sounds good, man. No, I think that's a good pick over there. I think, CJ Stroud, Quentin Johnston, that's going to be quite a battery, if you will, there. The Johnston, he can just get any type of ball up there, and CJ Stroud can deliver it. So he's got a great motion, very smooth. So with a decent offensive line, I think that'll definitely be a great pick for you there. And with that, since you picked Quentin Johnston, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and select. I actually like this. I'm gonna go wide out here because I actually like this wide out better than whatever the difference is between the tight ends there. So I'm gonna pick Zay Flowers. I love watching this guy's tape, and apparently they just announced that Zay Flowers is flying over to Kansas City actually to work out personally with Patrick Mahomes. So I'm like, hey, I get Zay Flowers here. I think that's great. So Zay Flowers, his cuts in his route running is sick, and he can get some yak. He can definitely, if you get him in open space, kind of with what they did with Tyreek Hill, get him in open space. He can make some players miss and break some ankles out there and get a big gain off that. So very excited about Zay Flowers. And I know I still need to pick my quarterback, but I feel like my quarterback can get the balls to both JSN and Zay Flowers. Man, I think that'll be awesome and sick from the route running perspective. So.
Yeah, you've got some burners there. You got Bijan Robinson behind center. That looks like a fun offense. Just depends on who your QB is going to be. If Merrill Hodge was to weigh in right now, he'd probably rip Bryce Young apart like he did Johnny Manziel years ago. Merrill is one of our most closest allies in the sports world, so shout out Merrill Hodge. But anyways, Zay Flowers is a strong pick. And I guess with that, you got 2 wide receivers here. I'm looking at one position that hasn't been touched yet, and I'm going to go ahead and take Dalton Kincaid as my tight end. He's kind of, hybrid wide receiver too. Like that as far as having Quentin Johnston, having another big-bodied pass catcher for CJ Stroud. I don't need, any sort of blocking for my tight end. It's just going to be, CJ Stroud sitting in the pocket, just throwing dimes to everybody. So I need a guy who can go up and get balls, and Kincaid's my guy.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick. I probably would have picked Kincaid between Kincaid. My next pick, Michael Myers, right? From Notre Dame. So he's a little bit more athletic and get the ball down the field. Myers, he's He's a little bit kind of a Witten, kind of an old, or Jason Witten, kind of an old reliable, isn't like too explosive, but decent route runner, isn't gonna catch like a 50-yarder, but at the same time can block, can catch, and move his body. So I think that's as much as you want from like a prototypical tight end there. So yeah, I'm gonna take up my roster, I think, as we're moving on from our kind of from taking. I think we're done now filling out all the first picks there. So yeah, but I'll go with Mike Myers here.
Yeah, no, that's solid. Again, if you were establishing a run game there, you've already got some pretty decent pass catchers, crafty, shifty guys that can create space down the field. So, why not open up some holes for Robinson? Whoever your quarterback's going to be, we'll find out. We're really, interested, but overall, no, that's a good pick. And yeah, I think those two are kind of like a toss up depending on what the team may need. So we'll see who goes first in the real draft, but no, I'm cool with that. For my next pick, I'm going to take who I just think is the best player off the board at this point. Seems like there aren't any more edges to kind of really find among our rosters. It seems like we've got some representation at each position at this point. So I'm just going to go with Jordan Addison. He won the Blitnikoff Award in 2021 while he was with Pittsburgh. Great route runner. I think with Quentin Johnson, Kincaid kind of being bigger bodied, perhaps down the field type pass catchers, to have like a crafty guy who can go, maybe running some slant routes, some out routes, maybe just some shorter routes in general, or just kind of, finding some space where it's made. I think he would be just a good fit with the roster, with Stroud. So Jordan Addison, welcome aboard.
Yeah, I know. I think that's a really solid, I guess, quarterback to wideouts, right? With Stroud, and you got that nice mixture of a route runner in Addison, and then someone who really doesn't have a full route tree, but has the potential to, eventually develop some of that, and just has the physical makeup and, downfield, spectacular catch making type of skill set that Quentin Johnson has, as well as Kincaid. So I think that's a pretty solid roster there for pass catching. I'm going to go ahead and then take my cornerback, Devin Witherspoon, out of Illinois. He had one of the best, I think PFS said he had like the best college football season of like any cornerback. So I'll go ahead and take that. I know he's not as physically talented as Christian Gonzalez, but still has, that playmaking skill at the cornerback position, just covers his wideout. And, for me, I'll definitely take that. And I didn't see too much of a drop between Christian Gonzalez versus Witherspoon. So I felt pretty comfortable taking Witherspoon here.
Yeah, again, I think it's another position like tight end where it's almost a coin flip. I think both those guys in the real draft, they're always kind of sandwiched together on all the mocks that I look at. So it's like whether or not one becomes better than the other, it's kind of debatable at this point, but they both seem like the type that can, guard guys one-on-one. They've got, really good instincts. They've got, good frames, good bodies. Like, I just think these are going to be two staple corners in the game. So whoever gets one or the other is definitely going to be in a good position. So that's a good late round pick, if I have to put it, that way. So it's very well done. So next up on my board, I'm looking at the last three positions I need: running back, linebacker, safety. Again, I'm just going in terms of who I think is the best talent at this point. And I'm going to go with Iowa linebacker Jack Campbell to be my Mike linebacker. This guy's 6'5", strong, good, like run defender in general, good, team leader. Just seems like the all-American, solid middle linebacker that, I think any team really just truly needs. I wonder how good he is against the pass catch. I think if there's anything, just in terms of his pass coverage, if it's, been debated or, kind of been pointed out as a flaw of his, I think that's the one thing he may be able to work on. But, PFF almost rated him as a 92 grade, player overall. I mean, that's pretty high up there in terms of, what they think about this guy. So, give me Jack Campbell and he'll be kind of a fixture in the middle of our defense.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a good pick. He was probably my he's probably the player I was looking at apart from Drew Sanders. They're a little bit different in terms of like what kind of linebacker they are. I think Drew Sanders is a little bit more of an off-ball kind of linebacker, whereas Jack Campbell's a little bit more of that Mike, with some flexibility here and there, I guess, maybe for a strong side. So, but yeah, I think that's probably who I would probably pick second there. So I don't see anything wrong there. I guess then with my next pick at the defensive tackle position, and this is actually I think Jalen Carter was probably your best pick here. That being said, I will definitely like this line. I think your line is going to be like the opposite of my line. I feel like I'm going to pick Calais Cansey here. I love Calais Cansey. He's not that great against stopping the run, but I don't care. I'm going to get some big fat nose tackle, I think, whatever, to play next to him. But I think him, Will Anderson, man, like, hey, quarterbacks out there, you better just go run. Like, these guys are going to come get you. So I got Calais Cansey there at the defensive tackle to pair up with Will Anderson Jr.
I mean, that's pretty solid. I mean, I don't know if it's Jalen Carter, Tyree Wilson solid, but it's getting there. It's getting there. No, I mean, I'm excited about Cansey too. I think that's someone that maybe the Bears might have their eye on. I don't know, unless we maybe trade down, if that's more of a fit for us at that number 9 pick. But it sounds like his stock is rising as we get closer to the draft from where it started. I don't know if previously he was kind of slated to be a late first rounder, second rounder or something, but now it seems like he feels like a top 15 pick no matter what goes down here. It feels like Houston's looking for, line help, other teams and stuff. So we'll see what happens. But yeah, I mean, I feel like he can get to the quarterback, or just bust through the offensive line. Like, that's exactly what you need. So that's a good pick. I'll make sure to check him off the list here as we go forward. 2 more picks left. At this point, I feel like I kind of just need a real shifty running back that can definitely create, even more havoc for the offense. I mean, we're going to have a big pass game. In general, I feel like I need a guy who can run and catch a bit. Somebody who's really quick. So I'm going to go with Jahmyr Gibbs out of Alabama. I feel like he just fits that mold, right? Reading through his profile is, just his strengths, his weaknesses. He kind of sounds like an Alvin Kamara type. Like, I don't know how high his ceiling is in the pros, but like, just a guy who can kind of do it all. And just based on his size in general, I'm getting vibes of Alvin Kamara with this guy. So we'll see how good he turns out to be in the NFL. I mean, I think if there's one thing they're dinging, it's just his overall size, which in this context, if I've got, let's hopefully say that my line ends up being elite. I could have, my little running back either trying to find some space through the big lineman or in general just kind of swinging out, catching passes, and finding any sort of space underneath. So I'm going to go with Jahmyr Gibbs here.
Yeah, no, I think he actually pairs really well with your roster, and he definitely has pass catching capabilities. So you guys are going to be set to just throw the ball with all those weapons. So I think that's a pretty good setup there. But I definitely felt strongly about Bijan. I think he's gonna kill it, I think, in the next level here. So and I think I remember him picking I think I picked him for the Chargers, right, in our mock draft. So if he joins that team, he's gonna get some good holes there with Justin Herbert. Kind of, how they say it now, it's like the pass is now setting up the run. Well, that's definitely what's going to be the case here, I think. So and then with that, for me, I think that's just leaves me with one last pick here. And I think you got a pick for safety, I believe. So I'm going to pick my quarterback to round it all off. And I think this fits really well. I really like how this is all setting up now. Yeah, Bryce Young. Let's go for it now. I know he's undersized and everything, but to me, there actually wasn't too much of a difference between CJ Stroud and Bryce Young. I think Young's got a little more scrambling ability, which I think will be deadly, with my roster here with Bijan. And then also with JSN and Flowers, like that speed and that quickness during like a scramble or something like that. Man, good luck with all that. And then Michael Myers, getting downfield or, catching things in the zone, I feel like that's going to be killers. So yeah, I got Bryce Young to round it off, and man, my offense is looking pretty fun. So
that sounds good. We'll get back to that quarterback pick in a second here when we close out this draft. But I'm going to go with my last pick. It'll be a safety. I'm going to go with Texas A&M, Antonio Johnson. Seems like a guy who can play slot corner as well as safety, but also has there's a really good ability to tackle. 6'2", good frame. I think in the pros, I think his game will translate for sure. We'll just have to see what kind of upside he comes with. But I do think going to your branch pick is the elite safety. I was eyeing that early on, so that'll probably be one of my biggest regrets when we go ahead and review this draft. But in general, I think next best guy up on the board, but I definitely wanted to wait just because I thought there was a lot more positional value in other places that I wanted to gobble up first.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think now retrospectively, I feel like that was the bigger gap. Now I think I said Bijan and Gibbs, but honestly, yeah, no, it's a good point. I feel like the difference between Branch and Johnson is probably a lot more significant. So, but hey, that's what our analysis is, and that's what we do these things for. So,
yeah, in general, just looking at where Antonio Johnson may go in other drafts. I mean, they're saying like if he even makes it to the first round, he'd be a second round pick or something like that. So, if we're going up, matching up other positions at this point, I think a lot of the guys we've been going back and forth with, like they're in the same range for the most part. Like I think Gibbs and Robinson will both be first round or early second rounders. I think Robinson definitely will be in the first round, but just kind of thinking about the separation between each one of the different picks at different positions, that's probably the biggest gap for sure.
Yeah. So let's talk about each other's teams here that we just spent all this time drafting now. So I'm looking at your team, Pat. I feel like this is like a nice compare and contrast between like the teams that we have. Like I feel like my offense, like my synopsis, I feel like my team's just fast, and then your team is I don't know what I'd call your team. It's all right. It's good. It's little husky people, so but yeah, I think I went for speed unwittingly, but yeah, I think your team has a little bit more size than mine.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like vintage Chiefs against the modern day Dolphins, kind of like one of those things where you have like a guy like Kelsey and in general, like your team does remind me of the Dolphins in the sense of like if you have Young, Smith and Jigba and Flowers, that is kind of like Waddle, Tyreek Hill, and Tua in a lot of ways. Like, so we'll see how it plays out. But you do have Bijan Robinson, who's like the I think best back out of this draft, and like everyone's just gushing about this guy, like Ricky Williams or whoever like could be his prototype or something in the pros. Like I think he'll be definitely a stud for whoever grabs him. I was trying to think of like an actual comp for my team, and I'm struggling a little bit. I'm trying to think of teams that have like maybe a bigger bodied number one receiver. I mean, almost like the Seahawks, but then in the same sense, like I can't think of, maybe Russell Wilson led Seahawks where you have, at least in his prime was like a top 10 quarterback. And then you had obviously like Metcalf, Lockett, the tight end talent. I don't think it was on the same shelf as Kincaid. So I'm gonna have to think about this one for a second, but if anything kind of comes to mind, at least on the offensive end to you, like, is there a good team comp for this roster of 5 guys? Like, let me know. But
yeah, I don't know. None that come off the top of my head, but I do like the overall makeup. I think it's actually pretty balanced on the offensive side, with the CJ Stroud, like just passing wise, like just have some decent offensive linemen there, and I think you're good, right? Because you got a player like Stroud who can get the ball up pretty fast, pretty quickly, pretty accurately, and then you got a player like Quentin Johnson who can just go up and get it, right? And Addison, he can definitely get those more intermediate routes. And then Kincaid, definitely much more that pass catching type of tight end. So I think passing wise, you're going to be really good. And then Gibbs too was the better pass catching running back between him and Bijan. So I feel like that's actually a pretty good overall you guys are just gonna be passing. I feel like just your team's gonna be like 60% or 80% passing or something like that is what I imagine. So,
Well,
but yeah, no,
I don't know. Maybe like a Chargers type squad where you've got like Herbert Eckler, Keenan Allen, you've got Mike Williams, maybe when Hunter Henry was part of the squad or something like that. Like a team kind of like that where it's just like built to be more offense heavy or just like, kind of pushing the ball down the field, always maybe playing out of like a shotgun type setup and stuff. But yeah, we'll just kind of have to see how it all gels together.
Yeah. And then on the defensive side, I feel like my team is like a little bit more of the finesse, a little bit more of like, hey, let's use our body positioning, let's use some leverage here and there, right? Whereas I feel like your team is like, we're these big physical people. Let's just, play some bully ball there. I think go down the line in each of these positions, right? It's like Wilson, he's definitely much more of that physical specimen, bigger, longer than Will Anderson. Jalen Carter, the same thing. Jack Campbell and Sanders, I think they're different kind of players, but they have a similarly physical makeup. And then Gonzalez definitely is much more. He had like one of the best combines out of any quarterback like ever. So, and then I think Johnson and Branch physically at least they kind of even each other out there a little bit. But yeah, I feel like your defense is very much just a bunch of like freak athletes and like big, large physical specimens there.
Yeah, it's kind of reminding me of I'm starting to think like it's very heavy up front, and I feel like the secondary is with the safety position might be like my liability. So if you were to pass, like that would probably be the one thing you could probably exploit. If Jack Campbell is not quick on his feet across the middle, perhaps you're doing some Zay Flowers, screen passes or slants across the middle or something just to kind of see if he can, chase him down or whatnot. But I guess when I'm looking at your side, I'm thinking of like Baltimore Ravens, Philly, Eagles from last year. We have that like elite secondary, and you do have some meat up front too. So it's not like you're exposed there or anything like that. But yeah, it looks like it'd be tough to like. I think it matches up well when you look at both of our squads. Like, in general, I feel like if I'm trying to go pass heavy on your squad, I have to go against Witherspoon, Branch in the secondary. I'm worried about Will Anderson creating pressure and stuff. Like, it's not going to be fun, man. I got to be honest with you. So I think I think when it comes to the matchups, it's pretty good. Like my goal would be to like create as much pressure on Bryce Young as possible, hoping that he doesn't get out of the pocket and scrambles and stuff. When he does, I'd have to worry about Antonio Johnson being able to cover some of your quick receivers and hoping that Christian Gonzalez can, be shutting down at least one of them of the three, passing options that you've got there.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's the fun part about having both JSN and Flowers, that they can be any cornerback, I think, in this draft. So, just in terms of their skill set and their route running. So, it's good luck with all that. And Jalen Carter and Wilson, hey, they're decently fast. They're decent pass rushers, but that's something where I feel like Will Anderson and Clyde Cansey, it's like, hey, if you're just going to be passing all day, great. That I think feeds into my defense of just, hey, let's just get at you. And Johnston, not too much of a route runner and doesn't have the best release. So that's definitely I feel like, all right, I'm gonna get to Stroud, I feel like. So and then with Witherspoon and Branch, I think that's a pretty good secondary there.
Yeah, I mean the only difference is I've got an Andrew Luck type behind center, and you've got Johnny Manziel behind center. So. No, we'll see. No, I don't hate Bryce Young. I obviously, I feel like Tua's found success. I feel like he's a similar size. I don't think that all small quarterbacks are liabilities. But I do worry about maybe long-term upside. Like how great can Bryce Young be? I think if we think about the smaller frame quarterbacks in the game, who would you maybe have on your short list? I mean, is a guy like Kyler Murray at the top of the all-time list or something for guys under 6 feet? Like I just have to start going through one by one and kind of ranking those guys and then saying like, how long was their like window of greatness and what did they ultimately achieve under center?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think people, I've never met Drew Brees or anything like that, but I feel like everybody that's met Drew Brees says he's like, no, he's definitely not. I think he's listed at 6 feet, and I think most people he's like probably 5'10", 5'11". So similar to Russell Wilson. But yeah, like in terms of like the maybe younger quarterbacks, Kyler Murray definitely is somewhat of a comparison there. I think Kyler might be a little bit stockier, but they both had like amazing pedigrees, right? Both, at least Bryce Young potentially is going to be a first overall pick, similar to Kyler Murray. Both stellar, college careers as well. So, maybe character makeup, at least for now, I feel pretty good about Bryce Young. I listened to his podcast when he showed up as a guest for the Pivot podcast. Like, really, really well-rounded individual, very grounded. It seems like he has good parenting and everything. I think that was something that Deion Sanders said. I think he likes his quarterbacks with two parents and all that, and like his linebackers to just be like roughnecks and hate life and stuff like that. So I feel like at least in that case, Bryce Young fits pretty well there. So I want to see him succeed. He seems like a good kid. It's interesting enough though is that you compare him to some other previous like Alabama quarterbacks, didn't have as good of a career in terms of championships, right? But definitely brought it in terms of production, touchdowns, yardage, etc. So at least in my opinion, just kind of shows like, hey, just because you're the most stellar quarterback doesn't necessarily mean you're always going to have the best team. And then vice versa too, with a championship winning team, right? And maybe a quarterback that isn't as stellar but gets the job done, plays within the scheme, et cetera, et cetera. But I think in terms of everything he brings to the table, like I really like what Bryce Young does. How he plays the game, how he handles himself. We'll see if he can stay healthy though. I feel like these days though, apart from maybe like Lamar Jackson, right? Like quarterbacks are kind of cradled a little bit. So and I think at least the thing with Bryce Young is he's definitely not going to a quarterback that is a run first. He's definitely much more a pass first. So hopefully he just knows how to take hits and stays limber.
Yeah, I think makeup is so underlooked, and it's hard to find in the same sense. Like when I was watching tape of Jalen Hurts kind of, competing in workouts while he was at Oklahoma and just like all the, viral footage that they had of that, and just kind of like at least knowing that a little bit, like watching, some of that video and kind of like the interviews around it and stuff. I'm like, this is a guy who's just, pure team leader. He inspires everybody's around him. And you can kind of see like in his first couple of years of Philly, like he was just grinding it out and nobody had a bad thing to say about him, whether or not, his talent ultimately got to the level that it is currently at. I think just guys in general need that in the locker room. They gravitate around it. And, just leadership is just, I don't know how you pick it apart. Like maybe that's the thing that's setting him apart in some of his interviews so far. Because at this point, it seems like it's almost a sure thing that Bryce Young will go number 1 overall. So, I wish him the best luck. It's not, that I obviously like want to see this guy fail or anything like that. But I have some doubts there. So we'll just have to see.
Yeah. And it'll be interesting what happens, I think, with CJ Stroud. Because I agree. I think I think there's been announcements that are kind of like tweets and stuff saying that basically Panthers are leaning towards taking Bryce Young. So if that's the case, then maybe CJ Stroud. I think there's been no. This is the fun part about draft time, right? We don't know what's going to happen. So I know there's been talks about maybe the Texans not taking CJ Stroud, but for me at least, I think it makes sense to take CJ Stroud if I'm the Texans. So if that were to happen, then if I'm CJ Stroud, I like the teams that the Texans have right now, and then adding in maybe a JSN or a Johnston with that second first rounder. Or maybe a pick in the second round. So with their team, with Tunsil as your left tackle, I feel like that's a great overall makeup there. Comparing that to say with the team that the Panthers have with their current offensive line, running back situation, wideout room. They don't have DJ Moore anymore. I know they signed Adam Thielen and such. It's like he's not DJ Moore, so I feel like there's a little bit more good prospects, I think, in the Houston Texans if I'm a quarterback. So we'll see if that comes into play a little bit. I know coaching is definitely a big thing though. So, with Frank Reich with the Panthers. So I think that can definitely help Bryce Young in terms of his development. So I don't know. We'll see. It'll be exciting. I think to see what happens there and how each of these players progress. It's always fun to like do a look back, right? And it's like, oh, who were all these players, these quarterbacks that came out of this certain draft, and then who probably had the best career, right? I think there was that one draft way back then. I think it was Matt Leinart, Vince Young, and then I think there was another quarterback there. I think this is true. It was Jay Cutler, the same draft. It's like who had the best career, but then who had like the most stellar college careers out of all of them. Like nobody knew Jay Cutler's NFL career, but he had the best NFL career, I think, amongst all those quarterbacks that are mentioned with Matt Leinart and Vince Young. So that's the fun part is, situation, coaching, that all kind of matters, scheme fit, etc. Right?
Definitely. Yeah. And I've heard a lot of chatter about Houston trying to trade out of that pick, or just overall not take a quarterback and take, Tyree Wilson, for example. I think they're really like high on him in specific, but maybe another, defensive lineman in that spot. So could get kind of crazy. I've heard scenarios where they may trade down with like a division rival in the Colts or maybe the Titans or something else. So it's like, I wouldn't do that if I were Houston, just to like have to face that year in, year out if it doesn't go your way. But, with 2 picks in the top 12, they have a lot of flexibility there. And I've also heard scenarios where like they just wait at 12 and see if a quarterback falls. Like that's kind of risky, or you just take the best overall at that point. Like you could do it. But if you're Houston, like what are you waiting for? And who is going to be a better quarterback prospect at the position you could possibly take him at, unless you're like clearly tanking to go for number 1 so you can, hopefully get USC's quarterback next year, Caleb Williams, like if that's truly what the plan is. But it never usually tends to work out. The only other thing I could say for Houston, number 2 overall, is that CJ Stroud shares the same agent as Deshaun Watson. So Houston's like, possibly not incredibly enthused about that. Doesn't want to have to deal with the agent, all the problems that came with Deshaun. So we'll just have to see. I would think that, you take both guys, as different people and like having different priorities, upbringings, interests. And, Deshaun's whole thing took a complete extra turn with everything going on at massage parlors that was well before, and kind of, I should say like those issues probably going on well before, but the problems kind of came after. And I think it was more or less his like wanting to be an executive for the Texans that really, started to rub them the wrong way. So no pun intended.
Yeah. I noticed that. Yeah. I was gonna say, I feel like Deshaun Watson, where he would have fit best, right? And they're kind of going through their own quarterback issues right now is the Patriots, right? I feel like him and like Robert Kraft, like, hey, let's hang out, let's do some stuff together. I feel like they would enjoy some stuff, in Florida, right? So
for sure. And that's another interesting situation. We've talked about this last time, but like a lot of these teams that are up in the, the middle of the first round that need a quarterback, that might go after one. Really interested to see what would happen subsequently if New England got involved in any of the rookie quarterbacks and what they would do with Mac Jones. Because I still think Mac Jones has some sort of future in the NFL, whether it's like a top tier backup or, potentially could be a good starter in the NFL. Like it's yet to be seen, but I think a lot of teams would probably give him another shot pretty quickly if he became available.
Yeah, I think my thing, right, and this is definitely where, the whole Caleb Williams factor, right? And again, hey, there's no sure thing, right, in the NFL, quarterbacks or what. But, Caleb Williams definitely has shown like he is a legitimate top quarterback prospect. So it's like, if he were in this year's draft, right, where would he rank, right? Would he be up there with Bryce Young? Would it be ahead of Bryce Young and CJ Stroud? Because maybe that's like what honestly some executives are thinking, right? It's like, why would we trade for Will Levis, which is why I think he'll fall a little bit, and why would we give up collateral right now if we're in the mid rounds trying to move up to maybe potentially the Bears position at 9, right? Why would we move up if maybe, hey, we can just load up on a roster, wait until next year, and then we'll see if we can get into the Will Levis or the Caleb Williams sweepstakes, and kind of just have a fill-in year, right? So, I wonder if some teams are thinking about that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they are. It feels a little risky, a little dangerous. Like, Houston should have had the number 1 pick in the bag last season. And for whatever reason, Lovie Smith wanted to keep competing. They got a touchdown. They won a big game there at the end of the year to help, the Bears cement the number 1 overall pick. And I feel like it's just so hard to kind of know how your team's going to respond, depending on how you configure the roster and everything. Like, there are no sure things, and Caleb Williams could easily get hurt next year, in the college football season or something like that, or have maybe an off year for his standards. And then it's like, well, he's not as exciting as he once was. But the one thing I wanted to say about Stroud before we just move on, I think I might have said this before, but it's like, somebody who's proven as much as he's proven in the college game to have the tools that he also has and have an amazing combine. It's like, it brings me back to, again, not taking personality in consideration, but like how much Deshaun Watson seemed to be like questioned going into a draft where it was like, well, did we not just watch this guy like ball out in college and, really lead an amazing team throughout the year and like, grab a bunch of accolades around the way. And he's like, there's really nothing that you can really, pick apart in his game. It's just like, why would you pass on a guy like that? And, we're recording this, so hopefully, we can go back and review this years later or something. But like, I will fall on the CJ Stroud sword. I think he's going to be, at the very least, like one of the best quarterbacks. You come out of this draft and somebody you can like start, I think, for the next 5-10 years and be confident with that. So I'm sticking to my guns here, but like I see too much, and I've it's actually tangible. It's not stuff that we speculate about a guy like Anthony Richardson or what a Will Levis can be. It's like we've actually seen it, against Georgia.
Yeah. Are you still in favor of taking CJ Stroud over Bryce Young?
Yeah, I am. I'd be comfortable with that. He's more my type as far as like what would I feel comfortable with having behind center for years and years. Like I do like, when I look at Bryce Young, I see a lot of Justin Fields, and I think Justin Fields is probably more of a rush first type guy, a quicker, runner, but he's got a small frame, small body. I just worry about durability over time. I have the same concerns about Young that I do with Fields. And it's like, I'll take all the upside and all this talent today and worry about, the downside and the injuries as they come. But it's like, I think on a talent, just from a talent perspective, like going head to head and like seeing CJ Stroud play like a complete game and also have like a great season behind him and stuff. And, a year prior he did, basically the same thing on paper. He's proven it twice. So it's like, I have a lot of trust there for a college prospect who's, being eyeballed as one of the top quarterbacks in this draft. But there are things about Bryce Young that I obviously have already stated, so I won't go ahead and restate all that. But I just think like, if I had to trust my gut on this one, CJ Stroud's like the guy I think is going to have the better career.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely like CJ Stroud. And I think I did pick Bryce Young. So in our mock draft previously. So I'll definitely stick with that there. It's a hard life for some of these short quarterbacks, right? In the NFL, like, players are just faster, stronger, so there's going to be more impact on there. So, it definitely is, I think, easier for someone that's like, sure, 6'3", 220, 230, right? To be a little bit more durable. But I mean, that's a fun part about the NFL is we'll see kind of just what happens there. If I think the one thing now is just like quarterbacks just need to get the ball out quicker a little bit, and once they can get that going, I mean, that's definitely I think the thing that Justin Fields has struggled with is getting the ball up pretty quickly, and that's kind of gotten him into trouble, getting some sacks, continuing plays when he had to just either throw the ball away or just give it to the check down. So I feel like just having a player like Bryce Young, though, it's like that's like an easier thing to teach, right? Is a player that can make those impactful throws, can create more time in the pocket so that they can make those longer passes down the field. And then, yeah, just teach them like, hey, make sure that you have that check down there. Make sure you have, your tight end out in the flat, right? Just keep them in mind there. So, and helping on the pre-snap read. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens. I think that both these quarterbacks are talented. I think, they're both, I think, fairly set up for success, maybe compared to some other quarterbacks in previous drafts. So, but that's the fun part about this all.
Yeah, no, we'll definitely see. Hopefully they find themselves in the right systems for their game. Huge and unpredictable element of being drafted. It's just like wherever you end up being is like just what your fate will be wrapped around too. So like good luck with Justin Fields and our Bears too. Like I always think about that for a guy like him. Like, is Chicago the best spot for a guy like him and his talents? Like, I think we're getting there in terms of like what Poles is hopefully setting up for us. And I love the DJ Moore trade. I think that was just real sneaky with all the other draft capital we got in it. So we're excited to see what happens with our Bears. But I guess, do you have any last thoughts about our two franchises that we just drafted, or anything about your particular draft?
I don't know, but I feel like we gotta like look at this, a year from now, see how many people make like all rookie teams, right? And then settle some sort of future bet or something like that out there.
I think that's fair. I mean, you mentioned that before we obviously went live here, so maybe we make it that we'll come back to this a year from now and kind of take a look at the rosters and maybe pin it to all rookie team, or if there's something around we actually winning the rookie of the year on the offensive or defensive side of the ball, maybe get some extra points for that. But let's couch it and come back to it. But we can definitely place another wager, and we definitely still need to review some of the trades, some of the bets we've made along the way here with different players and stuff. So we'll do a stock take for maybe the next episode or so on football, and then get back to everybody. But all right, well, I guess with that, we could just close on some final thoughts. I don't know if you had one in mind that you wanted to kick it off with.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely talk about let's see, I talked about coffee last week, and I know today is like National Cold Brew Day, but so shout out to all the cold brews out there. But I think I got a final take here. Let's talk about blueberry muffins. I think blueberry muffins are awesome. I think blueberries, they have some natural antioxidants, which, is good for your skin and things like that. So, and, I also love like blueberry pies, but I specifically love a good blueberry muffin. It definitely has that sinful type of taste to it, but then also at the same time is kind of sweet and nice, so kind of like how I like my people a little bit, a little bit of an edge, a little bit of a fatness to them, but at the same time, kind of takes care of you too. So, but there's I had a blueberry muffin recently, and it was nicely warmed up at one of my favorite coffee shops, and it was just a delightful experience. So I just wanted to share all that. But I guess, Pat, for you then, going off that, like, what are your favorite muffins that you like to eat, and what are the ingredients that you like in them?
Yeah, no, blueberry is definitely at the top of my list. When I was a kid, there was a girl that we were good friends, and obviously, like, we were attracted to each other a little bit. It was never said because I think we were in 5th grade, if I had to guesstimate in this situation. But for whatever reason, I think her mom like caught wind of it, and like she would come to my youth basketball games and would hand me like a Ziploc bag of mini blueberry muffins that were made like homemade and stuff. And I was like, oh, this was really so nice, and I think we were still at that point of awkwardness where it was like, yeah, well, I'm not going to like take you on a date or anything or whatever. So like I would just eat all these blueberry muffins, and then I feel like weeks later there'd be another bag just waiting for me. I'm like, wow. So I think, like, honestly, my history with her, I think I had like 3 big Ziploc bags of mini muffins, and I was like, so nice. So like blueberry muffins to me, like, I guess they have like a special spot in the muffin family, at least in my life. But I'll say, if there's anything pushing blueberry in the muffin game among all the fruits out there, Banana is pretty close for me. Like, banana on its own, it's kind of like, it's not always the most appetizing fruit, just sitting alone, and like it's reliable, it's dependable, it fills you up. You can take it on the go. It's really portable and stuff. Like it's easy to eat. Like it is a very dependable fruit, but I feel like whatever it is, like muffins or cakes or something, just get the most out of banana, like whether it's like the pairing with other ingredients like a cinnamon or whatever else is like being cooked in. I just feel like when you do heat up bananas, I think that's like when you get the best out of it. Like it hits its highest potential. So I feel like that's probably the closest thing. I might actually take a banana muffin over a blueberry. It'd be really a tough call. It'd be a very tough call, but it's very close. And the only other thing I could think like in a distant third to me is like an apple with maybe cinnamon, the apple cinnamon muffin. I feel like it's a very traditional, it's good, whether it's got like that, kind of sugar coated top and stuff, like just adding a little extra element to it. I feel like that definitely comes into play. But yeah, just if I was pushed, I might grab the banana muffin over all of them.
Yeah, no, I do agree with the banana. I like a banana nut with chocolate. I feel like that's like a great combination of, having that chocolate taste to it, but then also having that kind of sweetness and flavor of the banana, and also having that nut crunch. I think that it kind of just goes all really well. So yeah, like a banana nut chocolate muffin. And then to your point, I definitely have had like an apple cinnamon one. It kind of has like an apple pie type of thing going, right? It's like it's a baked good with the apple and cinnamon combination. So but yeah, for me, if I want to indulge, maybe I'll go for the banana nut chocolate. But if I'm like, feeling like, hey, I want some nice good stuff, I like to feel a little bit good, but I don't want to feel too good, because feeling too good, like sometimes you feel bad when you feel too good, right? Anyway, but yeah, that's my thought is, muffins, they're small, they're durable. Sometimes you forget them in your bag. Sometimes, an alleged girlfriend's mom will bring them over to you, but I feel like they have a nice place for me, just as like a nice, thing there that you can easily get, especially when you go to like a Costco. I think they even sell them like in bulk in those like little package type of things. So just something I was thinking about was how awesome muffins are, and whoever invented them, thank you.
Yeah, one other muffin just to talk about it, but in general, I feel like we have a friend out here that like he kind of eats like he's a 12-year-old. He's got like all the snacks, all the candy, all the goods or whatever, but like his one addiction is like the Entenmann's mini muffins, and like he does the funfetti ones. But like he's able to eat like, and they come with like a pack of small 4 muffins or whatever. He's able to eat like 3 to 4 packages of those in one night, if we're just snacking or whatever. It's just like, I mean, it's not like we sit around and just eat snacks together or whatever, but like when he's in town and we're sleeping over or whatever, like we always make sure to have like a lot of junk food on hand, just because we know he'll tear through it, and if there's not enough, he'll be upset about it. But no, in general.
So he's your muffin man. He's your muffin man.
Pretty much, yeah. Like he is the muffin man. It is really funny. Like I think he even busts out like cups of whole milk and stuff. So like we all laugh because like none of us drink milk. I don't know how many people. I don't know if you drink milk, Wayne. Like it's like it is not a trend very much longer here, these days. But he will bust out the whole milk and have a whole tall glass of it while he's having his mini muffins and stuff. And it's like one of the funniest things. It's such a throwback. But yeah, anyways, don't eat those mini muffins. There's like 500 ingredients in them. Like, please steer clear and just wait for somebody's mother to bake you some fresh homemade muffins instead.
Sounds good. What is your take?
So my take, I don't know. We're still dealing in a funny economy here. We went grocery shopping the other day over at Trader Joe's, and I just needed to get like some staple items that I just need to have on hand from Costco. So it's like one of those runs that I do like every 3 weeks, but I'm like, I'm going to get in, I'm going to get out, be efficient. Don't need to like load up the cart or anything. Like we're going to keep it pretty lean. So I got some food, just general like take home meals. I got, big thing of yogurt, coffee, some medicine, other stuff like that. I get to the register tonight and legitimately I had maybe 12 to 15 items in there and my bill was $300. And I was just like, can we just stop for a second? Like I'm paying $300 for like, 10 items or less, like you feel like you're in the express lane with your stuff and you're just like, wait a minute, like how the hell am I spending $300 right now? So like, there's just a love-hate relationship that I have with Costco because everything I buy, I use and it lasts like a good amount of time. Or if it is one of those like ready-made meals, it's definitely a discount. It's definitely a value over, using any of the food apps or actually going out to eat or getting carry out, whatever it is. Cause just everything these days is pretty much like been raised as far as, prices, standards, everything else like that. But, no, anyways, so I was just generally floored about that. So that was kind of like point one that I wanted to throw out there. But then point two is I made this really good sandwich tonight. It was a like beef sirloin. Basically, you like cut it into strips, you pan fry it. I caramelized some onions and I had some blue cheese crumbles and I bought some really nice Italian bread that I sliced up and basically just kind of layered up this, sandwich with those three things. Had some, cut red potatoes on the side with rosemary and garlic, kind of rounding out this meal. It was like, I went through this hate situation with Costco as I was like walking out. I was like, man, $300. I passed on the $1.50 hot dog today, so I failed on that. But in general, like got home and had like a really great meal. And then I looked back at my fridge and all the other stuff that I'm going to use down the road and be like, in general, like I'm still somewhat satisfied because I had a good meal tonight and everything else, kind of turned out right. So Wayne, I don't know if I have a question. I more or less am like trying to field some reactions from you, but like, have you been in that situation at Costco or elsewhere where you're like, I just want to get my stuff and like I have to go to these places to get this stuff because it's just the quality I'm looking for. It's like what I actually need to. And like, just being in kind of like a way when you're like, damn it, I didn't want to spend $300. I thought this was legitimately be like $100 run.
Right.
I'd be going home all happy and stuff. So like it is somewhat of a rant, but Costco, I still love you, but secretly like get your shit together and like make this more reasonable for us.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes when I'm feeling like, $1 million or whatever, I'll go to Whole Foods, right? And it definitely is one of those like I feel good like eating this really bougie a steak or some sort, or even their fruits and vegetables, like they just taste better, at least for me. But are they worth like 3 times the price you'll pay like at a Kroger store or something like that, or even on Costco? Like probably not. So I definitely will go towards maybe a Trader Joe's a little bit more than a Whole Foods. But there were definitely some certain recipes. Well, I'll go look at there. I'll look down the recipe, and I just see some really nice things there that I can't find anywhere else. But apparently they're available at Whole Foods. So that's where I definitely get into trouble. And it's like, oh, I can't just get this one thing at Whole Foods. I gotta get all these other things. I see this new I don't know, cereal box that's like $10 for cereal. Like, all right, Mel, we'll go get that. Let me try that. I haven't had cereal in a while. Or hey, maybe there's some bananas, some chocolate covered bananas, or hey, maybe there's also some $10 chocolate banana nut muffins or something like that too, or blueberry muffins. So I definitely have a love-hate relationship a little bit there, but I definitely am a little bit frugal, and that's certainly kind of comes and goes for me. I definitely have to actually look out for recipes, otherwise I'm just going to be eating like chicken and vegetables and eating like a rabbit for like a week basically. So and so that there definitely is a balance towards that. I think I have a Mariano's and I have a Jewel nearby. I also have some Asian grocery stores, so I definitely feel like it's a little bit cheaper. But then if I want to go a little bit bougie, not to say Mariano's is too bougie, but they got poke over there, so I definitely will go get some poke. They have like a 2 for 1 deal, or not 2 for 1, but like 2 for like 20 deal for 2 boxes of poke. Actually, you can get there, and it's actually pretty good. And I'm pretty I don't know. I think I have a pretty decent taste for poke. It's the key thing is the rice. Sometimes for these grocery stores, they don't get the rice right. It's like too hard, or they don't use like proper sushi rice. So, but for Mariano's, I think that's a great deal. So I'm definitely a shopper for that. But to your point, Costco, it is a love or hate relationship because it's so beautiful and awesome. It's like, a really, really nice high-end girlfriend. You almost feel insecure, like, oh, this is too good for me. This person can't possibly love me, but Costco does. So, yeah, and shame on you for not getting the $1.50 hot dog and drink there. But other than that, hey, YOLO. As long as your kid is getting a college education and all that, and you're not completely depleting your funds, I think it's okay, especially if you're eating all that $300 worth of Costco goods.
Yeah, it's more on principle alone. We hardly do anything that actually requires any sort of money these days because we can't really go out and do all that much. But yeah, man, it's just crazy. Like, just doing the basic math on it, it's like almost every item is an average of $20. And when you really do think about it, like that's truly Costco's game. Like you walk around, you grab something, it's probably going to be in a pack of 3 or 4, and like you're going to spend $20 on that item. So you have 15 in your basket, like you're $300. So it's like, it is kind of crazy how the math works, but then you're just like, well, shit, I could have like got a round trip flight to Chicago for $300 and I've been like way more happy about it. But yeah, just the economics of food and everything else right now, it's just totally crazy. And it is kind of our world though, like I feel like pandemic really set in, in-home eating trends, like cooking at home, and just with like, all these apps, Instagram, TikTok, everything, like there's so many foodie, type profiles out there that want to show you the best restaurants and the best meals and this and that. And it's just like, it intrigues us to all like kind of get out there and try the next best thing as far as like fine dining goes or like an interesting food item goes and stuff. But like, they're going to charge you for it too. So it's like, food is kind of like taking that step up, whereas maybe other things are like, I mean, I'd like to think that more things are dying down in terms of pricing and stuff. We're just in a really bad time. So it's like, I don't know. But yeah, food is definitely out of control right now for sure.
Yeah. I definitely have been meal prepping some, so that has helped me. It's not fun, but it gets the job done. It's just like, all right, it's Sunday night or Saturday or whenever you grocery shopping, let's meal plan for the week. Let's have, tacos on Tuesday because it's Taco Tuesday, a pizza here. So that plans things out, at least for me. And I think that helps me out also economically and also nutritionally too. It's like, all right, I'm going to eat like an apple a day, right? Keeps the doctor awake. So, so that, yeah, like planning those things out, I think definitely helps out here and there. But I'm actually terrible with celery. For whatever reason, I'll think I'm ambitious enough to finish like a full stock of celery, but I never do. I usually just get like one little piece of it, and then that's about it. And I usually just eat that with peanut butter because I do like celery with peanut butter, but just not celery in any other fashion. So things like that, goes for a little bit of a waste. But I definitely will make sure that all my meats are planned out for the remainder of the week. I think this week I got like 2 salmons and then like a 1 chicken or like a 1 like little I guess cutlets of chicken breasts. So that definitely helped me out to plan out for the rest of the week. So yeah, I think like things like that can definitely help out.
Yeah, I'm all about just reducing waste. So whatever you buy, make sure you stretch it, you use it until, obviously it goes bad. I'm like that with arugula, other produce at times. Like I'll buy it, I'll make that one salad just as like a side for my meal or whatever. And then like think that I'll get back to like 5 to 6 extra servings before it goes bad in a week. And it like doesn't work out the way I want to. But like, yeah, with Costco, it's just a game on like, you're not going in there unless you got a family of 5 or something, you're feeding a bunch of kids lunches every single day. Like you probably shouldn't be buying deli meat. You probably shouldn't be buying cheese. You probably shouldn't be buying, the milk there unless your kid's like drinking bottle after bottle or whatever. But it's like, you just got to get to a point where it's, what you're buying, you're using. And if that, comes at a decent value for you, however you end up using it, like, then it's worth the money. But I just hate seeing food go into the trash. And like, that's just the biggest like pet peeve of mine, I think, in like this household or whatever. So in general, I'm a real stickler about it. I'm definitely like the economical, frugal one of the two, and I'm cool with that. I mean, I'm not going after I don't avoid the things I like because I'm scared to spend money. It's just I want to make sure I can stretch my dollar as far as it can go.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's a balance, right? It's like, all right, I do want to eat some foie gras on occasion, but I'm not gonna get my own foie gras. Like, why would I get my own foie gras, right? I don't eat foie gras like on toast, so like, yeah, like I'll go splurge a little bit at some restaurant, eat foie gras there, but I'm never gonna eat it like on a constant weekly basis as my, part of my weekly diet. So, yeah, I think it's nice to just enjoy things here and there, but then, yeah, have those kind of staples, right?
Yeah, I mean, again, when it comes to going to a Michelin star restaurant or a place I want to go to just to dine out, I'm happy to do it. I will ball out. I'll have a great time. But yeah, on the day to day, you got to keep things somewhat tight and like keep your eye on the on inventory and stuff. Like it's almost like being like a full fledged like Six Sigma operations manager. You just gotta be like, just in time inventory for when you need it and stuff. And like, I've got grocery stores for different things and other things like that for food. So, anyways, yeah, good talk. Costco, we're in a situationship right now. I'll continue to see you when I do, but when I do, make sure you bring the goods and I'll, go through the pain of swiping my card and kind of just taking the hit where it needs to be taken. So anyways, that's my spiel on Costco tonight, and glad we had a chance to go back and forth on it a bit.
Yeah, I'm glad. I hope you have a healthy relationship, and I hope Costco's mom brings you over some blueberry muffins.
Hey, she might. And if yeah, anyways, I'll leave that alone. I'll stop there. We've talked about Deshaun Watson enough tonight on this one, so we don't need to blend content here. But I think that's a good place to stop. And yeah, if all of you guys stuck with us for the draft, take a look at both squads. I know Wayne will probably fire up some graphics. But yeah, just leave us comments. What'd you think of how we rolled that out? How would you have assembled a team? What do you like? What do you don't like from each squad? Whatever it is. Did we miss any players? Maybe there are guys out there that we could have taken instead of some of the guys on our actual teams. We're happy to hear it. Follow us on YouTube, Ball and Breakfast. You can find us in the search at Ball and Breakfast on Instagram. We're on Spotify, Google Podcasts too, under the same name. But yeah, please follow us, like, comment, and leave us some messages too. We'll always get back to you. So with Wayne, I'm Patrick signing off for the Ball and Breakfast podcast.